Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to take a look at a product from the company Sofirn. The flashlight I have in my hands here is the SP31 version 2.0. Now I've been carrying this flashlight for a number of months now, and the reality of the situation is this review is like 2+ months overdue. But I have been carrying this flashlight pretty much continuously amongst a couple of others, but really giving this a good overall use. And what I found was I liked it so much and it performed so well, I really wanted to do the review justice. Now with that said, I've been using this primarily as an inspectional flashlight, but the place where I work really doesn't allow me to film. So I didn't want to do that typical kind of backyard or backwoods review. For me, it was kind of, I don't know, sort of a little less than this deserved because I like it so much. But recently, I had the opportunity to bring this flashlight with me on a backpacking trip, and I opted to use this as my camp light. And in that regard, I was about 8 miles deep into some very remote wilderness and had an amazing time. Now, using this as my camp light, it actually served a very vital role. Not only was this my camp light, but I did use it to pretty much keep me safe. The location where I was at was very vast and kind of a little bit sketchy in terms of the overall terrain and where I was navigating in the dark, and so to have a good quality flashlight with a good capability was definitely a must. Now I have a whole bunch to show you, and I think you'll like it, so do me a favor. Stay tuned. So here I have the Sofirn light SP31. This is the version 2.0, and I've opted to carry this as my camp light for this particular camping trip. And I really like this light. It is an 18650 battery powered flashlight. Now it is not technically rechargeable, but you can remove the battery to use a charger, and this did come with one, which is nice. This has a tail cap clicky which turns on the light. And in this regard, you'll see it has many different modes. So here is low, low 2, medium, high, and turbo, and then back to the low mode. So this has overall a really pretty good beam. I mean, when I go all the way up to turbo, which is right there, you'll see I do have the ability to illuminate a real good distance off. I mean, that is way out there, man. I mean, if you look at, I am in the frickin' mountains and I am illuminating all the way down at the end of this river here where it turns around the bend. I mean, look how far that is. This is insane. Really great beam. And the fact that I can actually illuminate all the way down there is just awesome. So you do end up with the overall hot spot, but then at the same time, a nice amount of flood. So if I want to dim this down, it is a little bit low in the, call it moonlight mode for me to navigate around. And that's one of the things that I find with these lights is typically the moonlight mode is a little bit too dim to navigate. But when you turn it up just one notch, the low mode should be capable of getting you pretty much where you need to. And that's going to do a couple of things. First is it's going to allow you to see what you need to, but at the same time it's also going to conserve a little bit of battery. So I could definitely use this to get me where I need to go, and I can see far enough into the distance here to definitely get me from point A to point B safely. And so for a camp light, it is really nice to have these different modes, and I do like the fact that, call it really the second mode, so low number 2, is actually bright enough to get me where I need to and navigate around. But as I mentioned, going through the different modes, here you'll see medium, which is again Very nice throw, gives me the ability to illuminate pretty far off in the distance. Now the camera's having a little bit of a hard time focusing, but that's okay. You get the idea. Really, you know, if I had done this earlier when the camera would stay completely focused, it pretty much wouldn't have given you a good example. But I am in a nice, vast river area using this to illuminate out into the distance. And here you'll see, even on that medium mode, the ability to illuminate far off into the distance. Now again, going up to high 1, this is a ton of light. I mean, a super refined hot spot there, but then a nice flood. Again, the ability for me to get where I need to, make my way around. Now at this point, it is probably doing just a little bit of damage to my eyes. I mean, when I turn off the light, it doesn't bother me completely. I can still see just fine, so I haven't really had any sort of night blindness due to the light. However, this is, I would say, probably more light than I really need. So two things. One is, it's going to damage my eyes more than I need to and give me a hard time seeing if I turn the light off. But also it's going to consume much more battery than I need to. So I feel as though really the optimum mode for me is either that second low mode or medium. And then again, getting into that turbo mode, as I mentioned, illuminating way off into the distance. I mean, look how far out that beam goes. So for a reasonably compact flashlight, just a really nice amount of throw. Now it's quite dark now. It's at the point where, you know, it's still a little early for bed. And I'm just kind of poking around here and seeing what I can see. There are a ton of hazards. I need to be really careful. It is very slippery, a ton of running water in all directions around me. But it's actually a really cool spot. And, you know, just to hang out here is amazing. It's fall, it's crisp, nice and cool, but not too cold. I can see my breath, so you know it's getting to be freezing. But at the same time, just beautiful. So I am very much enjoying myself out here and kind of exploring around, and you know, using this Sofirn SP31. It's definitely allowing me to bop between the different modes, see what I need to see, and make it around this site actually with ease. And this is a great little light. I like the way it feels in my hand. I really like the 2-button approach on this light, the fact that it has the tail cap clicky to turn the light on, but now I'm just kind of bopping between modes. I'm kind of walking around right now, and you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm walking around right now with my thumb on the mode and just kind of blipping between the different modes to look. I mean, look at this water. I'm kind of walking through a little, I don't know, sheet flow here, but this place is just ripping. And when you get to certain spots, there are waterfalls and cascades, and it's absolutely spectacular. Let me show you a little bit more. All right, so I've made my way over to here. Check this out. Just insane, this beautiful sort of slide of water all the way down here. I could imagine in the summertime, this is just ridiculous. I bet you could slide right down that thing. Nice little pools over here, and just continues to cascade down. Now, getting back to the light, you'll see, again, this is the turbo mode. If you look at the low mode, I mean, the camera's having a real hard time, but just one little bump there, and that low number 2 is just awesome with the ability to see plenty good. I mean, that would allow me to navigate here plenty safe. A little more light in that medium mode, giving you some detail. High number 1, and that turbo mode. This is a great light and a beautiful location to test it. Having some fun here. Making my way back to where everybody's hanging out. I mean, there's, like I said, just tons of water in different areas where I need to be very careful, but you'll see, oh, and here's my crew. So I'm gonna go back up here, hang out with my friends, and enjoy the rest of my night. So now getting into the details of the Sofirn SP31 version 2.0. This flashlight is very cool. So there is a tail cap clicky, which turns on the light, but to change your mode, you do use the side switch, and I very much like this. Now when you turn on the light, you'll notice that the side switch is also a little LED battery indicator that turns off while it's in use, but when this battery is running low, it will turn red. So as you tap through the different modes, you'll notice that this side switch does not necessarily illuminate anymore. It's really only when you first turn on the light that it turns on to give you an indication that there is plenty of power or if you need to recharge the battery. So now going through the modes, and I had it a little bit screwed up while I was out in the field, but I'll make some corrections now, and you'll also notice that I had annotated the proper terms on the bottom of the screen in each one of the modes while I was doing my field testing. But when you first turn on the light, that is your eco mode. So Sofirn opted for a 5 lumen output. In the eco mode, I think that is definitely a suitable amount of light. I found as though this was a good illumination for general camp tasks and worked pretty well for things that were in close quarters to your actual campsite. So different things like trying to find my shoes or navigating around my tent. I happened to use a hammock and I had this hanging up inside my hammock to give me some light while I was getting ready for bed, and it did work overall pretty well. Now a single press of the side switch, that now is what they call the low mode. So the low mode on this flashlight is a 50 lumen output, which to me is perfect. I really like that 50 lumen output. I find as though it is plenty of light to do most things. Most navigating around is very efficient on the overall battery. And then at the same time, doesn't do too much in terms of like destruction of your eyes at night. A lot of times flashlights, if they are overpowered, will give you some sort of night blindness. I found as though this really didn't do that. And the overall projection of the beam was great to allow me to see a little bit off into the distance, but perfectly illuminate everything in front of me. Now another press gives you that medium mode. So medium on this flashlight is 160 lumens, which I think is a nice spread coming off of that 50, going to that 160 mark. Could have been 160, could have gone to 200, 250, but anything in that general range to me seems to be overall pretty good. Now this just gives you a little bit more light, a little more oomph if you need it, gives you a little more throw, but in my opinion is not necessarily as, I'd say, economical as that 50 lumen output, so you may or may not find that you use the 160 lumens all that often. Now another press gets you into the high mode. High on this flashlight, and I can tell you now I am starting to feel the heat of the beam on my hand. That is a 500 lumen output, and this is starting to throw out some considerable light. Now again, this could have been 500, it could have been 600. Either way, not a big deal, but I do think this is about the perfect output for a high mode. Now, you may choose to, again, click and go to turbo. Turbo is that full throw, really pushing out some light. I can really feel the heat on my hand here, and even at a foot away, I mean, this thing is really throwing a quality beam of light, and you'll see that really defined hot spot in the middle with a good overall throw and flood on the side. This thing is absolutely cranking, and this allowed me to illuminate way off in the distance. Now, the run times I will take a look at with you real quick. Let me pull out the informational pamphlet, and I'll give you a look at what we're talking about. Now, while we're getting into this, here is the box. So this is pretty typical to most Sofirn packaging. It all pretty much looks the same from what I have been able to tell. I've looked at a couple other products now, and it is very similar to this. So pulling out the contents, you will notice that the flashlight sat in here. Now, it did come with an 18650 lithium ion battery, so this is a 3000 milliamp hour battery. I found the performance of this to be generally very good, and in fact I have charged this a few times and it seems to work very well. Now it does come with the charger. Obviously you cannot plug in the flashlight, and that's okay. It doesn't bother me at all, and I think these chargers are plenty good. In fact, they're not all that big. They're kind of small and reasonably compact. Fits easily in an EDC bag or something like that. So generally speaking, I think this works pretty well. Comes with a cable, a little lanyard, and as I mentioned, the informational little pamphlet here. There is a little card in here which it's asking if you're happy or not happy. My vote is definitely happy. I like this flashlight a lot. Now getting this assembled back together real quick. Taking a look at the informational pamphlet here, I'm just going to give you some of the run times really quick. So eco mode, 5 lumens, 291 hour runtime. Low mode, 50 lumens, 26 hours, 49 minutes. Medium, 160 lumen output, 9 hours, 45 minutes. High mode, 500 lumens, 3 hours, 41 minutes. And turbo, 1200 lumens, 2 hours, 37 minutes. So my point being, and I mentioned this early on, that if you go to the low mode on this flashlight being the 50 lumen output is excellent for a ton of navigation, the ability to make it around. And when you really look at it and it's telling you you have 26 hours and 49 minutes of runtime, that is substantial. Now, again, the eco mode wouldn't quite do it for you. And the medium mode at that point cuts your runtime down to 9 hours and 45 minutes from the 26 hours and 49 minutes you get on that low mode. So to me, I think that's really important to keep in mind, that if you are using the low mode, you get overall pretty good performance, general ability to do pretty much everything, and a good long runtime. Now that turbo mode, let's talk about that real quick. This has a 225 meter distance throw. So, I mean, really, if you talk about 675 feet, something like that, call it 700 feet away of good quality throw, I would be willing to say it goes further than that. If you look at the footage of me illuminating those trees way off into the distance, I would think they were at least 1,000 feet away. Now, you're not going to pick out maybe one individual's face over another, but you would definitely be able to identify most things, whether or not there's an animal. I could count trees. I could see pretty much the nature of the landscape, a lot of things that you can really identify with that turbo mode and the long distance throw. Now, something worth noting, when you click the tail cap, this basically will remember the mode that you're in. So here I am in the turbo mode, pressing it once, goes into the low mode. So if I turn this, say, to medium, and I shut the light off, we just sit here and do our thing, and I turn it back on, it goes right back into that medium mode. So depending on what you like, it can kind of go either way. It's just an observation, and I kind of like the fact that it stays in that memory from the mode that you were last in. And the specialty modes. If you've watched my channel for a while and my flashlight reviews, you probably realize that personally, I really don't have a care for the specialty modes. And even more so, I think a flashlight is totally trashed when they put the specialty modes in the middle of the output cycle. So as you go through the different modes, you'll see that there are no specialty modes. But as soon as you long press, that's when you get it. So that gives you your strobe and then a single press, and it puts it into the beacon. So that to me is awesome. I love the fact that you need to intentionally long press to get into the specialty mode. So again, if I long press the side switch, then it goes into that specialty mode. So there's your tactical strobe, and one more press. That is your SOS. Well done. Now, another detail worth pointing out is the fact that this light does have a momentary press, so you do not need to necessarily click the light all the way on to get it to work. And that, to me, I absolutely love. I think there are a lot of flashlights in this particular size range and also price point that do not offer the momentary press. And for me, that is not necessarily what I would say essential, but when it has it, I like the light that much more. And that to me is what puts this Sofirn SP31V2.0 above the competition. Now just finalizing the details here. Again, your tail cap clicky, the side switch for the modes. Overall, beautiful construction, nicely made, good and durable. This thing's taken a couple of dings and hasn't had any problem. It's worked perfectly fine. Generally, nice knurling and machining. That silver polished clip which to me, I would love to see them come out with a blackened clip. It would just be cool. Now, it's not make or break, and I don't really care. I just think that would be a nice little touch. Little lanyard holes on the tail cap here, and just overall beautiful construction. Now, the inside of the lens is a nice smooth reflector. That's what's giving it the throw. No orange peel on this puppy with that nice smooth interior reflector. So alright guys, there you have it, an in-depth look at this SP31 version 2.0 from Sofirn Lite. I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at Sofirn who provided this for review. I very much enjoy this product, and I apologize for the delay in putting this review together, but it was worth it. I have very much enjoyed this. I've used it quite a bit. I can highly recommend this light. I think it is, certainly something that's similar to other lights in its class, but this one definitely does perform, and I very much like the construction. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.